Hi everyone, welcome to Happy to See Me. I'm Erika Casupanan. Today I am speaking to Juice Boxx, who is an incredible drag performer here in Canada. She was on season 1 of Canada's Drag Race. But first, I'll talk about what I was happy to see this week. And to be honest, this time it's not something that I have seen, but rather something that I would like to see. So I've been thinking a lot about my own fitness goals because I actually love working out. I worked out a lot over the last few years, and the pandemic did really, slow that down. And also going on Survivor and then losing all of my muscles, it also slowed down my fitness goals. But for a long time, I had this fitness goal of doing a pull-up, and I'm still working on it. I'm confident this is the year it's going to happen. But then two things have triggered this new goal for me. One, seeing my friend Sam compete in a fitness competition. I know I talked about this in a previous episode. It really inspired me to set new goals and to have the discipline to work towards them. And then the second thing, years ago, I saw this video of Brie Larson training for Captain Marvel. And as part of the training, she worked her way up to be able to push a car. And I thought that would be cool to push a car one day. So then last week I went to see my longtime personal trainer and I was like, okay, dude, here is the new goal. I want to push a car. So I can't believe I've said this publicly. So I guess now I have to do it. But my new fitness goal is to be able to push a car one day. Hopefully you will be happy to see me doing that in a few, months. I don't know how long it's going to take. But let me know in the comments if you think that I will be able to successfully push a car and do a pull-up at some point. Anyways, I'll let you know how that one goes. It makes sense that I'm talking about fitness right now because in this episode, I am speaking to a very fit queen, Juice Boxx, the incredible drag performer who was the first boot on the first season of Canada's Drag Race. So she opens up about what it was like working so hard to get onto the show and then being the first boot. Plus, she talks about this vulnerable moment where she actually had a panic attack on stage and it was broadcast to everybody on the show. And she tells me about the fan reaction to that moment. Plus, she shares what it's like doing drag now and what she's doing with her drag these days. And fun fact, she has been with her partner since grade 10. So if you need any relationship advice for how to keep the communication alive after so many years, this is the episode for you. Juice Boxx is so full of energy, so full of life. I loved speaking to her, and I think you're going to love listening to her. So let's get into it. This is Juice Boxx. I hope you enjoy it. It is my pleasure to welcome the Juice Boxx to the podcast this week. Welcome.
Hi.
You are so adorable. So if anybody is just listening to the audio, Juice is wearing these headphones with these little ears. They're pink. They're so cute. And the background of your room that you're in is like my cute little K-pop fantasy. It is so adorable.
I appreciate it. It's my little cave in the basement. So I've got all of my neon lights and all of my cute little toys and squishmallows. I have actually. Do you play Fortnite?
No, I don't.
Do you know Ariana Grande?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So she has a pig called Piggy Smalls, and in Fortnite, her backpack is Piggy Smalls. So I had it custom made. So I have my Piggy Smalls right here. So fun.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, this is so much fun. And I love how there's always this sense of imagination in whatever you do visually and in your drag. And there's so much that we can talk about. And also, you were on Canada's Drag Race season 1. So
yes,
why
for
don't
a short
we start
time
there? Okay, I'm glad you brought it up because so many people who listen to this podcast, they're reality TV fans. They met me through watching Survivor. And I love talking about the experience of filming the show and then watching the show. And then you had this unique experience because you were on season 1 of Canada's Drag Race. You were, unfortunately for everybody watching, you were the first person who was eliminated. So it was like you had a short run filming the show. Plus, it seemed like you were there when they were still working out some kinks. So what was the experience of actually filming the show like?
I mean, cold. If
Yes.
Really cold. If you were a fan of the show in 2020, you kind of noticed we were always in blankets. We were always kind of bundled up. I remember it was just it was during a polar vortex. We were inside of a what's it called? a studio space, and the studio space just didn't have any like heat or insulation, so it was just honestly freezing all the time. And my drag aesthetic, especially back then when my body was a lot smaller, I think I was like at least 20 pounds smaller, at least like 3 pant sizes, like a itty bitty, right? So I would wear like these tiny little bikinis. I would wear these itty bitty like thongs and stuff. So like my skin was always out. So I wasn't like the other girls who were like padded to high heaven where they were at least feeling a little warm. I was absolutely frigid. And then like we call it me and Cynthia Kiss, we call it the Thunderdome. So you're in this like pressure cooker where you're just so stressed out. They give you no compliments. They love bomb you for 5 days before you get on. And then you get on and then they're just like, it's done. Like you're stuck in the Thunderdome. So I was just like a ball of anxiety and terrified and just like tensed up all the time. My butthole was just like, nyah, the whole time. So it was a lot. Like I'm happy for it, but it was a lot.
I feel like with Drag Race, what makes it a bit different than with other reality shows is with other reality shows, we're all meant to be strangers. Nobody is supposed to know each other. Whereas with Drag Race, you've worked with these people before. You have existing relationships with them. So that must change the dynamics, right? Like even when Canada's Drag Race was first announced, did it just become this frenzy among yourself and the rest of the drag community?
Yeah, it was almost like the way I kind of described it in the past is when they announced it, it was almost like you felt this like wave go over everyone and everything changed. The drag in Canada changed overnight. It became more competitive. It became more about who was going to get on the show, what your drag then meant for what they were going to see to get you on the show and to be able to build you up to that status, right? So it was exciting, but it also sometimes I miss the camaraderie of what drag used to be in Canada because we never had that ability to kind of hit that next thing. So we all were kind of just like, yeah, well, we just do this and we love it and it's about the art and whatever. And now it's just like it changed to be like, okay, now I've got to make sure, like, I hear the producers are going to be here tonight. I got to make sure I'm bringing my A game. I got to make sure that I'm funny on the mic. I got to make sure, like, everything I wear is my best stuff. I got to make sure that I'm lip syncing incredibly, So it did change it a bit. There was moments where, like, I remember I was on the steps of a bar and I was talking to a friend of mine and I was just like, yeah, I just put in my video and I'm really excited. It says that people have watched it. And my one friend was just like, oh, you guys are already at videos? And she hadn't even gotten the call to like get past that. So like that was her realizing that she was never going to get on. And like it was so awkward for me to have to be like, yeah. So it does change things when you have those interpersonal relationships when it comes to Drag Race rather than a show like Survivor where you just like get on and you meet a bunch of new people.
And does it also carry on once the show starts filming? Like, is it weird when some of the people are your friends you've had for years?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, season 1 was Toronto's Drag Race, right? So, like, Scarlett Bobo and I had a show at a garage literally the night before we left. And, like, we were there once a week together. Me and Tainomi had worked together for years. Like, she was one of the first drag queens I ever saw in Toronto. Who else? Like Kine, I knew from YouTube. So like there was a lot of people who I had literally worked with that week. Priyanka and I were in a Spice Girls cover group, Spice Queens. I was Baby Spice, she was Scary Spice. So like we had these very intimate relationships. So to get on the show was kind of strange, but it was comforting because you had your friends there. But then like there was moments where like I remember when I got eliminated and I came home, some people had said like, well, Juice got eliminated episode 1, so she wasn't there for me when I needed her. And it was like, okay, glad you made it about you. Like, what the fuck?
It's like, yeah, I wish I was there for you. Like, are you serious?
I would have loved that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So once you start filming, so like it's probably so weird because I feel like with drag, how it's like a vocation, it's like a profession. It's the platform that everybody wants to be on in terms of being on Drag Race. Was Drag Race, aside from it being frigid, was it what you expected it to be?
Yeah. I mean, in hindsight, yes. Like when I first got there, I thought it was going to be a little bit more in my favor. You know, because in your mind, you're the winner, right? In your mind, they've created a storyline for you. You're going to be the narrator of the season. You're going to be the girl that wins every challenge. You're going to get that big glow up, you know? So everybody thinks that. Everybody walks in. And also, Toronto girls have this weird thing where they create storylines. So like all of them, because we were all talking before we went, right? Nobody kept it a secret. You can these girls will lie to your face and say they kept it a secret. Oh, fucking one of them kept it a secret. So we were all talking, and they were like, "Well, our storyline is going to be this, and our storyline is going to be this, and then they're going to do this, this, and this." So when you get there, that's all thrown out the window. Production doesn't know your interpersonal relationships. The production doesn't know those very intimate details about your friendship that we've created in our minds, like what our fights are going to be about. Production has a completely other plan of what they're going to do, because production, as much as people say it's reality TV, they create stories, you know, and they have an idea of the stories that they're going to create, and they do make some on the fly, but they definitely have an idea before they start, and you get that feeling like as soon as you get there, right? So in hindsight, yes, it's exactly what I was expecting, but that reality check of when I got there of like, oh, this is what it's going to be like, was kind of a bit of a oof, right in the, like a big throat punch, just right to you, you know?
It's kind of crazy how people come in thinking, okay, I'm going to manufacture the storyline, or we're going to do this and this is what's going to end up happening. And you get there and you're like, no, 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 no. Like that's absolutely not what's going to happen. And I think it's those real moments that people remember, and it's those real moments that make TV. And then for better or for worse, you had a very vulnerable moment on your season where you had a panic attack while you were being judged. And it's incredible how in the moment you identified it and you were like, this is what's happening to me right now. This is what I need. Give me a minute. And then you were able to get up and you were able to then finish the rest of the episode and lip sync, and you were amazing.
Thank you.
What was the anticipation the months before that like? Were you really worried to see that vulnerable moment on screen?
Yeah, I was. I remember when it first happened and I was eliminated and everything, and they put you into this comfortable room and you're like blanketed and it's warm and there's food. And I was like, this fucking room has been here this whole time. You guys are dicks. But they like put you in there. I remember there was a production dog. Her name was Debbie. So they gave me Debbie to like hold, and it was really nice. But I know, I wish Debbie was my favorite part. Rest in peace, Debbie. Debbie is unfortunately not with us anymore, but sweet Debbie. But so I remember one of the producers came in, Pam, and she sat down and she told me like how important that scene was and everything. And I told her, I was like, can you cut it? I don't want that, you know, to be seen. And she was just like, and she kind of looked at me and she was like, I don't think you understand how important that part is. She was just like, I know it's embarrassing in the time. I know that it was hard for you to do. She was like, but you're really going to see that it was important for people to see that, because you were vulnerable in a way that was something that people are going to be able to relate to. And it was like, I got countless message of people who were like, that's, you know, how I see things. And, you know, it was so inspirational to see you be able to work through it so easily. And now I know that I can be able to do that, because I just knew that I needed to de-escalate the situation. I needed to acknowledge what was happening, de-escalate the situation in my mind, and just kind of talk through it. Because I felt like in that moment, because my anxieties deal with death and dying, that I was going to die. I was going to faint, hit my head, bleed out, dead, you know? So I was able to acknowledge that, breathe through it, make it through. And then I was able to kind of be like a mental health advocate after, and be able to really speak on a lot of things. I've done a lot of like keynotes for like therapists and stuff. They're all over Zoom, but you know, still
Get it.
Still. Yeah.
Because I think it's like in that moment when you imagine like anybody going on your favorite show that you've dreamed of being on for years, like the idea of getting on, being in the bottom the first episode, getting eliminated, and having a panic attack, it probably seems like, wow, it couldn't get any worse. But I think the thing that's incredible is like you lived it. You're like, okay, you did it. You proved that you can get up and walk away from it, and the sun still comes up the next day, the next day, the next day. And you can live through something that seems like the worst case scenario. Like, does that ring true for you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, totally. And it's like, not only did I like get eliminated, have a panic attack, I also had the moment where I like fell in the mini challenge and I like got my bracelet stuck. So like, it was just one of those things where everything that could go bad went bad. And I kind of just looked like a lovable, anxiety filled dork, which I am. So that's fine. But it kind of made me think, like, now I know that no matter what I go through, I'm able to kind of like, make it through it, because really the worst possible situation has happened.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like, in the best way possible, how could it get any worse? So
Yeah.
you did it. You did it. Even if you
Yeah.
come back for a second round and you do an all-star season, you get eliminated first. If one of those things doesn't happen to you in that episode,
I'm already
you're
good.
moving up.
I know. How mean would that be if I go back and they go Juice and they send me home again? That would just be mean.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that would be
100%.
spiteful. Oh yeah, I would be like, I would even be there, and they'd be like Juice, and I'd be like, are you fucking serious? Like,
I
please
know,
give me
like,
one.
even if they put you in the bottom, at least let you win the lip sync. Like, at least
Oh,
go to the
come
second
on.
episode.
Double save it. Come on, man. Just give me one.
The anticipation for that episode versus how you felt after. Was it as bad or as good as you thought it was going to be?
Well, I watched it. So my season was in 2020. So no viewing parties, no fans, no traveling, nothing, right? So I watched it with my family in my parents' living room with some close family friends and stuff. And I realized in that moment, ooh, I really should have watched this alone, like with nobody around, because your parents are very protective of you, your friends are very protective of you, and they all start kind of berating, like, that was unfair, this is da 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 da, you were so good. Like, all of that stuff happens, and it becomes really overwhelming. You also relive everything. So I ate an entire plate of cookies. Like, there was we had snacks and everything, and there was a whole thing of cookies. I just devoured it watching the whole episode. I had to do an interview after, so I was in drag, sitting in my parents' living room. Oh, it was awful. So then as soon as I get eliminated, I, retreat to the bedroom that I was staying in, and I just cried while I finished my makeup. And then I did this interview, and I was sour for this interview. They were like the work mama, like, wasn't that so fierce? Episode 1. And I was like, yeah.
I actually remember watching that interview in real time. I didn't realize that you were
watch
live
it?
happening. Yeah, and I remember being like, this is so weird. Like, there was just like weird backgrounds. It seemed like they were still working out what they wanted the persona and they wanted the tone of the interview to be. So, but it just seemed like the people who were interviewing and then you were just not on the same page. And I was like, this is very weird to watch.
Actually, we had a full blown so after you get eliminated the next day, they do like a decompress after your press day. So we press all day long, and then right after they're like, so like, how do you feel? And I remember after I went, it was so fucked up for me to have to do that interview right after I got eliminated. I was so upset. I just wanted to go to bed crying, like, what the fuck? And they were like, good to know. Know.
Especially because in Canada, it streams on the service called Crave. So they know that you're going to be eliminated. Like, you don't have to wait for it to air on TV. So I'm like, oh, they could have done it before. I don't know. There's just other weird timing that they could have done for it.
Also, like, maybe let me watch the episode before. Like, they let the girls I think after they saw what I went through, they let the finale girls see the episode before. So they got to see who won a week prior. So they were able to kind of like process that emotion before they found out live in front of everyone.
Oh, okay.
No, that's a little secret for you.
And how far in advance did you film the season?
4 months, 4 or 5 months. No, sorry. We filmed it November of 2019 and it premiered July of 2020.
Oh, so you had a long time to sit with it.
Yeah. It was a long time. Now they do it really fast, but we had quite a while.
I think that it's better to do it fast because I think for me, I finished filming in May and then it aired in September. But then like Survivor's like all so crazy, right? Like everyone has like such weird mixed emotions. It's all so weird. I knew I was the winner, and I felt like you need that time to kind of calm down and process everything that happened and have the conversations with the rest of the cast, because then as soon as it starts airing and the cast gets announced, like everything gets weird, everything gets out of control.
Oh, really? Did they hate you because you won?
No, I mean, I
Okay,
don't.
that's
Well,
good.
maybe I don't know. I mean, if they did, then that's their own thing. But I'm like, I don't think I did anything to make anyone hate me. So who knows? If they
No,
hate me,
I
it's
haven't
really
watched your
like their
season,
own thing.
unfortunately, but I will. I haven't watched it yet. I've
Oh,
been
it's
catching
okay.
up on Survivor. I'm almost done this
Oh,
season.
oh, are you on? Which season are you on right now?
The newest one, season
Oh, the one that's aired
43.
44.
Yeah, yeah. I'm watching 44, but then I'm gonna go back and watch more.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay,
So I'll
spoiler
watch
alert.
this.
I won't
Promise.
tell you who wins 41, but I hope you'll like the ending.
I don't know.
Imagine you'd be like, oh, so and so was robbed. I know. This is the thing. It's like, it must be nice that your season is already just like out there. It's done. You don't have to worry about it coming back and rearing its ugly head again, because now they're starting to slowly put Survivor seasons on Netflix. And I know that for people who have like gotten hate, or people have disagreed with their win, as soon as it gets on Netflix, they're just like, oh shit, here we go again. Like,
Oh, I
mhm.
mean, every few months that actually happens to us. So, like, every few months, I'll get like a big rush of things being like, "You won that lip sync. I thank you so much for having that panic attack." I used to get voice messages of people in the middle of a panic attack saying,
Wow.
"Can you talk me out of this?" And I would be like, "No."
Hmm.
So I still get it too. Yeah, it still happens for us, but it's not as big. And I also didn't get
Hmm.
any hate, so
Hmm.
that's kind
Hmm.
of nice, you know?
With Drag Race, also what makes it a bit different than the other shows is that drag has to do with, like your profession and your livelihood and how you make money. So
Mhm.
when you go on Drag Race and you get eliminated earlier than you hoped you would, does that change the way that you view your drag, or you want to approach your drag after?
It doesn't not the way I approach my drag, it's the way that I'm marketed now. So
Mm-hmm.
the way that I was marketed before was I was just a local girl, right? Now I have this whole brand as like the Canadian pork chop, the first girl to ever be eliminated
Mm-hmm.
from Canada's Drag Race season 1. You wanted to see more of her, so have her at your party to see more of her. That's kind of how I'm
Mm-hmm.
marketed. I also had to kind of fall into finding my niche because people didn't really see a lot of me. So I had to kind of create this niche and this kind of like brand for people to fall in love with, because when you're on the show you have a window, right, of you've got all eyes on you, everybody's seeing you, so the window slowly closes, especially after your elimination. It's like tick, 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 tick. So I
Mm-hmm.
had to kind of build out this like online persona, this Twitch persona, TikTok, like all of these things for people to get to know me as fast as possible so they could fall in love with me and want to continue seeing me, versus if I were to get eliminated and disappear for 6 months and then there's all of a sudden 3 seasons later and I'm trying to post, then there's no marketability, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
not about the way that I see my drag, it's about the way that I had to market myself. That had to change.
I think that that's very smart, because it can be really easy for someone to go on a show like that and think, okay, I've been on the show, let the followers and the brand deals roll in, but that's just not how it happens. And so with your
No.
drag, it seems like your personal interests really influence the drag that you do, like your interest in gaming, anime, K-pop. So was that something you always set out to do when you created Juice Boxx, or was that something that kind of developed over time?
It developed over time. I remember when I first started doing Juice, it was all about the partying and the drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of just like looking hot and maybe getting drunk and partying, right? But then when I sobered up and I started to realize like this is an art form that I really love. This is something that I want to kind of develop a lot more and to kind of create things that make me feel happier, because I'm an artist. I went to art school for my BFA, and I always wanted to be an artist. Then I went to makeup school thinking that maybe that was going to be the route, because I loved beauty and I loved like making things look nice. But then I kind of fell into drag and realized like, oh, this is it. This is
Mm-hmm.
the path. So I've been able to create this kind of persona about the things that I love, because it's Juice is me, right? Juice is just another aspect of me, but it's me being able to celebrate my femininity. But I've been able to create an outlet to be able to express my art, express my interest and my femininity all in one. So I love gaming, I love Disney, I love like, like things like the bright and beautiful things of like K-pop and anime. So a lot of that has been nice because you're able to really fall into an art form that's already sort of established, and you're able to just
Mm-hmm.
sort of like create from that, rather than I'm not like the kind of girl who's like Is She Hungry or Pythia or Sasha Velour, where they're able to create art from their own experiences. Like they'll see like a line and be like, that's a beautiful line, I'm gonna make a drag act out of that. I could never do that, right? I'm not that creative, right? But to be able to create things like my Disney strip teases, where I'm a Disney princess and I'm stripping out of like my Disney princess things, like that's kind of more my sort of energy.
And I think that that's also quite smart in terms of longevity in drag, because one, it's something that differentiates you. And then also it's something that's true to you. So hopefully it doesn't make you sick of it if it's something that you truly love.
I hope.
So you said that when you started with Juice Boxx, it was very much party at the bar every night. Does that part of Juice Boxx still exist, or now is your drag kind of moving at a different speed? Because I know you're doing a lot more stuff that's online and through Twitch too.
Yeah. I mean, I don't party anymore because I'm not 25. I am in my 30s, and I'm also sober. I've been sober over 5 years now. And the
Congrats.
idea of the thank you. I appreciate it. It's a lot of work. No relapse yet. But it's been nice. It's a lot different where it's like I still work in the party. My still number one thing I love to do is perform. I love to be in the bars. I love to be on stage, and I love to be able to connect with people in person. But unfortunately, just with the kind of work that I do, that really only happens on weekends. You know, it's not like I'm doing Monday to Friday. Also, with my placement in the show, it's not like I'm being hired for tours that are traveling the world, which is actually nice because I don't want to be doing that. So for the time that I'm home, I'm able to play like video games on Twitch. I'm able to create content at home to be able to kind of just like, it's almost like my administrative work to prepare myself for the in-person shows. So the party still happens. It's just a little different.
When we were talking about booking you on the show, you were like, oh, I can do it anytime during the week. I don't do anything during the week. I perform at nights. Let's just do it. I'm like, amazing.
Yeah.
But I think it's actually quite profound, if I'm being honest, because I think that it's easy to want to be touring the world and be playing all of the shows, but you seem quite content having that life on the weekend, and then you get to be home in your light up cave in the basement doing the things you love, and you're with your partner. So when it's easy to want more and more, how do you reach the point where you think, okay, you know what, I have enough, I'm good here?
I feel that. I do feel that. I feel like I have enough. I feel I've got my husband, we have our home, we have our dog. Like the way that I always explain it to him is that like he sometimes has this moment where he's just like, well, you know, we need to save more money. We need to do this. We need to do this. We need to make more of this. And I'm just like, I literally have friends who are like, they can't eat some weeks. Like they don't make enough money to be able to like pay their rent or their phone bills, you know, but like we have enough money to pay our phone bill. We have enough money to go on vacations. We have enough money to buy groceries and like extra sometimes, you know, like we're doing good. So for me, I feel like I've got a wonderful husband, I have a wonderful life, I have a dog, I have a house, I've got friends that love me, I've got a career that I love. I'm fucking great. I'm thriving. You know, I go to the gym every day. I'm happy as a clam. So I don't know. I think it's just being content with what you have, and that what is that one thing that they say, that jealousy is the thief of joy or something? Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I never try to compare myself to like my other Drag Race sisters and what they have and what they're doing, because that's not the life that I want. That's the life I never seeked out. I would never be happy doing those things. Like I love being home. I love being able to be in my own space, you know, because I love cooking my own meals. I fucking hate eating out, you know? So when I travel, it's just like, motherfucker, you know? So I think it's being happy with what you have and really owning what you have versus seeing what other people have. Does that make sense?
Did you always have that mindset, or was that something that came with age? Like, was a younger Juice Boxx more like, I need more, I need everything?
Oh, yeah. But I was also like drinking every fucking week, right? So I was just like, I need more money for booze, you know, and I wanted more invites to cooler parties and better gigs, and more like because for me, I was seeing what all of these girls around me were getting, and I was seeing how they were more entertaining, they were more talented, they were, you know, like I remember I did this one competition. It was called Cruise and Tango's Drag Race, and I won.
Congrats.
Very happy with that. Thank you. Very excited, but. I won $5,000, a trip, like all this stuff. I learned a lot of really cool stuff. But the only thing I wanted was a weekly show at Cruise and Tangos. So I was able to have financial stability because the amount of money you make at Cruise and Tangos is wild. So if I worked at Cruise, the amount of tips plus the show fee I would have gotten would have given me such financial stability. But they gave it to Priyanka because they liked her better. So she lost, I won, but they gave it to her because they liked her better. They wanted her to win, so they gave her the show, which is fine. Totally fine. But for me, I was really jealous. I was really upset because it was all I wanted. I worked so hard to win that competition, and I thought that would come with it. You know, I thought that would come with the win, but instead they gave it to her, and she was talented. She was effervescent and she was fun. Of course they were going to give it to her. Right. But I remember I was so jealous. So that was something I really had to grow out of. And now, like, she won. And am I jealous of her life? No, I'm so happy for her. I love her. I love what she gets to do and her songs and everything. You know, it's a lot different from when I was coming up, right? Because I feel like I would be jealous as a younger queen, but now I'm so happy with my life that, like, why be jealous? What's the point?
It's nice to see that you've been able to move through that. I think, and especially after the experience of being on Drag Race, because I think that exposes you to wanting so much more. So it's nice to see that you're able to stay grounded and you're like, no, I'm good here. I want to ask you about your partner because I had read that you have been with your partner for almost 20 years now. Is that true?
We forget how long. So it was, I'm 34 turning 35, and it was the summer of grade 10. August 15th, summer of grade 10. We were slow dancing in his bedroom and he asked me to be his boyfriend. He's very cute. He's so romantic. He's the sweetest little bean. So I think it's 18 years, but it might be more. But yeah,
wow.
I think it's like around 18. Yeah, we've been together a really long time.
Congratulations. That is wild. We're the same age. I think I'm a year younger than you. I couldn't imagine continuing to be with the people that I would date in high school. So I'm glad that you found the good one right away.
Yeah, he's great.
So you were in grade 10 when you started dating, and I know that you grew up outside of Windsor, Ontario. Okay, and if anyone is listening and they're not from Canada, that's like way in southwestern Ontario. That's like the part of Canada that's close to Detroit. So it's like, you know, and its own little nook in Canada. So were you openly gay at that point when you started dating your husband?
Oh, yeah, I was a big fairy. I was out in grade 9. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. I came out early.
And was it accepted in the town you grew up in?
My parents were very accepting. My parents were really accepting. My brother was like a big jock, so he was accepting, but I was his little brother, so he was bullying me no matter what. I could have had 8 eyes and he was going to bully me no matter what, you know? So like that wasn't, I remember, what did I say? When my parents told my brother, they were like, you know, Joe's gay. Sorry, my boy name's Joe. So they were like, Joe's gay. My brother went, yeah, I've been calling him a fag since he was born. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course he is. So like he didn't care. It was just as long as he could bully me no matter what, he was happy. So he was like, yeah, whatever. I'm still going to kick the shit out of him. So I was like, great. But I mean, the town itself, I mean, it was growing up gay in like the 90s and the early 2000s, right? So it was a bit rough. You know, there was the drive-by F words, you know. There was I got beat up a lot. I got hit a lot. And I went to a Catholic school. So when I did, it's not that they said I deserved it, but I remember one time I got hit and I went to the office because I went to a fairly fancy school. So we had cameras everywhere. So I said, can you look at the cameras to see who hit me? Because when they hit me, I blacked out. And they said, well, why did they hit you? And I was like, well, they were calling me, you know, fanger. So I was just like, I was like, it was obviously homophobic. And they said, well, what does the Bible say about it? So I was like, I went, what? So I luckily had a great family. So my mom was always in my corner. My mom worked for the school board. So like, there was always the like, hello, Mrs. Primo. No, you don't have to come to the school, Mrs. Like a lot of that, you know. So I was lucky enough to have a great support system, but it was hard looking back on it. It's not like I would leave school bloodied every day, but if I didn't have the people in my corner, then it probably would have been worse.
Oh, that's amazing that your family was so supportive of you. And even with your brother and his like weird backhanded support, it's like, okay, I guess it's still support.
Right? I'm like, I guess that's fine. Like,
yeah. But then if he's like the big jock, like how did he feel about you getting hit at school? Was he cool with it? Or were there times where he was like, I'm coming in for my brother?
We went to different schools.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he went to the town school, and I didn't want to go to the town school because the town school was really white trash. Like it was just like
Okay.
farmers. And I went, no, I'm all right. I'm going to go to the fancy Italian high school where they're all really rich. So they'll hit you, but they don't want to hurt their manicures. They'll like hit you once. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
they'll beat the shit out of me in this one. So I
Oh.
went to the other school. So he did. I remember he would come to bat for me. I remember he was working at a mechanic shop, and one of the guys came, and he had said, he's like, isn't your brother Joe? And he's like, yeah. And he was like, he's a big fairy, right? And my brother beat him up so hard that his face was just so bloodied. And he was like, you know, yes, he is my brother. So he just like
Wow.
popped him as much as he could. So he defended me. He's a great brother, but
Mm-hmm.
he gets to bully me. That was his thing. He's like, only
Yeah.
I get to bully you, not them. That's mine. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, take the shit out of me. You can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, fair. Not that we condone violence on this podcast, but this
Yes,
is
please
this
don't.
young man's way
but-
of showing love at that point in his life. So
It was the 90s, It was the
Mhm.
early 2000s, the 90s, and we were in a small town. So that's kind of how things were dealt with.
Okay, so speaking of healthier ways of showing love, so since you and your partner have been together for almost 20 years,
Yeah.
how have you been able to do it, especially with, all of the different chapters that you've been through in your life so far?
I think we're like master communicators. We're like constantly communicating. We call it building a rainbow bridge. So like if we're ever like in a moment where things are like tense and we're not sure and like we're not really communicating well, one of us will be like, can we build a rainbow bridge and just like talk about this and just like really find each other's like, middle ground. So we're really great at communicating, finding a middle ground. We're also really good at allowing each other to grow independently and then meeting in the middle. So like he was able to create his own person and I was able to create my own person, and now we just kind of are that, but we're partners, right? I find a lot of people sometimes when they try to make it work, they try to change themselves to be what the other person wants them to be or to be what the other person expects them to be. But he has no expectation of me and I have no expectation of him other than the things that I need for support and love, but that's about it. Like, I never want him to change who he is. I never want him to change. Like, he's so stubborn, but I just leave that alone because I know he's stubborn and he knows how to adjust that thing about him to meet me in the middle. Right. And I'm a princess and I'm fucking crazy, but I know how to turn that off to not drive him nuts.
So, do you think that the good communication that the two of you share was helpful as you were going through the reality TV experience? Because I know that, yes, it's crazy for the contestants, but it also puts some strain on the loved ones who are around them too, because this person that they care about is going through this experience and they can't really relate to it and they don't really know how to handle it. Like, do you think that you and your partner were good during that time?
I was super lucky to have him. He now hates Drag Race. He thinks it is the worst show in the world. Because imagine like what he had to go through. So he picked me up. So he was actually on vacation. He expected me to be gone a little bit longer. So he went and visited some friends in Montreal. And I called him when I got eliminated. And I told him, I was eliminated and I was really upset. He literally just got to Montreal. Like he landed in Montreal, grabbed his stuff, went, love you guys so much. So happy to see you. I got to go. Jumped on a train, came back home. So he was there for me as soon as I got out of the car. He was there for me. Like what he did was, because he's a kindergarten teacher, right? Kindergarten teacher librarian. So he was kind of able to support me in a way where he was just like, I know what it's like for kids to really go through it. He works at a really hard school, so that he's able to kind of deal with that. So he was like, I know what these kids go through, so I'm gonna kind of do that to my husband. He's like, I hate treating him like a child, but he kind of had to. He had to, every morning he would wake up and say like, he'd be like, are we at a 1 or a 10? Where are we today? And I would be like, some days would be a 2, some days would be a 5. I never went over a 6, but like every day was, I had to kind of adjust. And like, I remember there was moments where like, I'm a big cook. I love cooking. So I really wanted to make butter chicken one day, which is like such a big undertaking. Like I was crazy. I should not have done this. So I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to make butter chicken and it turned into just brown, angry slush. And I remember I just like laid on the kitchen floor crying and he had to physically pick me up and bring me to ramen because I was just so upset because this thing didn't work, right? So the communication was great through it and he was so great because he was just so supportive and knew that I just needed to kind of like go through these motions and then I would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But now he fucking hates the show. He won't even watch it. He's like, no, that show's evil.
Yeah. I mean, I don't blame him, especially because he could see how much that affected someone that he loves so much. I could see why he has a bit of resentment towards the show. For
Yeah.
anybody who is in a relationship and they want to have that level of support or communication, do you have like a piece of advice that you could give them so they could get there?
Just be patient.
Mm-hmm.
Be patient and talk things out, try to think about what someone else is going through and also how their kind of mind works, because I think when I really sit down and we really can't find a middle ground, I have to think like this is what his brain is thinking and this is where his point is going. And if I don't understand that, I almost have to force myself to understand that, and he does the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an open thing with us, is like he even knows like if I say like, hey, this is how I feel and here's how you said made me feel, you know, or a big thing we say is, hi, I really need support right now. Can you support me in this? Right? We don't use words like, I need your help or come do this. I just say like, I don't need you to do it for me. I just need your support in this moment because I'm struggling. Right. And he says the same thing. And that's a kind of good thing for us to say. So I think creating boundaries, creating open communication, and creating different sort of things for each other to say to you. It might not work for you, but if you say different things, like if you choose those things to say to each other, I think that creates a nice communication boundary and kind of, I can't find the word, but that
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, yes. No, that thing. I think that well, I mean, I don't know the word that you're thinking,
I don't
but
know the word.
the thing that's scary is it's like, oh, in order to get to that type of relationship, it's like you've got to give up how you feel too. Like you've got to also share your
Yes.
feelings. Like it's not a
Yes.
one-way thing. It's like you have to like bare your soul a little bit if you want someone to trust you as much as you want them to trust you. So
Exactly. Like you can't be guarded. You've got to be like, this is how I feel. And how do you feel? Let's find a way to fix this.
yes, 100% agree. Vulnerability is good for everybody.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Okay, I want to ask you. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, so Juice Boxx, what are you up to these days?
We're going into Pride season, so I've got a very busy Pride coming up. I'm traveling a lot this summer, which I'm feeling so happy and blessed about. I'm starting to work on my 2024 calendar, which I'm so excited about.
Ooh.
Yeah, I've lived in this like tiny little town, and there's no Pride stuff. So I was just like, I live here, and I've got like I have all these resources, and it's just like I want to bring pride to my cute little town. So I'm working on some like cute pride things for my town for 2024. So I'm really excited for that. Especially like all ages stuff to like for young queer kids, because I grew up in a small town. I would have loved to see pride stuff. So I'm working on a lot of those things for 2024, and honestly, just like Twitch streaming, I'm getting back into doing full-time streaming again in between pride stuff, which is going to be a little crazy, but yeah, so I'm just really excited. It's just mostly the same shit, different day, babe.
Wow. I feel like now that you can have pride in a small town, it's almost like a full circle moment where you can give something back to the young Juice Boxx in her small town.
Healing your inner child. Love that.
Oh, it's the best. Everyone who has yet to get to their 30s, when you start healing your inner child wounds, it's amazing. You are so free. You are leveling up. Everyone, go do it. And if people want to follow you and keep up with what you're doing, where can they find you?
Oh, okay. So it's so hard to get Juice Boxx as like a thing. So I'm sorry you're going to hear all of them. But if you want to follow me on Instagram, Juice Boxx Official, Twitter, Juice Boxx Queen, TikTok, Juice Boxx Tiki Talkie. Somebody stole Juice Boxx Official when I changed it for like one afternoon and won't give it back. That dick. If you want to follow my Twitch streams, go to twitch.tv/juiceboxtwitch. And also, if you want to hear any of my podcasts, I do Semi-Qualified Queens with Cynthia Kiss. So you can listen to that anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if you like gaming, I also have a gaming podcast with Flannel Jacks called It's Dangerous to Go Alone, where we review a game you may or might have already played every single week.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you so much for telling us how to stay in the Juice Boxx world. And thank you for letting me into the Juice Boxx world today.
Thanks for having me, bestie. Reality TV girlies.
We love it. Canadian girls on unscripted TV. Thank you.
Bye.
I hope you loved the conversation with Juice Boxx. Please, if you haven't already, I would love if you could support the show. So please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on YouTube. It's Happy to See Me Pod on YouTube. And of course, please follow the podcast on Instagram at Happy to See Me Pod. Also, I have been getting listener requests for guests, and guess what? I look into them, and sometimes I even book them. So if you have any ideas for guests that you would love to see on the show, let me know, because who knows, it could lead to this amazing, inspirational conversation. Thank you again to everybody for listening, and I will talk to you next week.